Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a stark, kind of uncomfortable reality of human dynamics. We're breaking down exactly what it means to be dangerously smart. Look, let's set the tone right out of the gate here. Niceness? It's a luxury. But strategy is an absolute necessity. Most folks out there are navigating life completely blind to the unvarnished rules of human nature. You know, they're reactive, they're emotional, and frankly, a bit naive. But today, we're going through 8 brutal psychological laws that top-tier operators use to read minds and absolutely control any room they walk into. So if you want that edge, brace yourself, because we're getting right into it.
You see, society always tells us to value traditional markers of intelligence, right? But there is a massive contrast between what gets praised and what actually commands power. Most people think being smart means, having a sky-high IQ, hanging a fancy degree on your wall, or just memorizing a ton of random trivia. And honestly, they're dead wrong. In the real world, traditional intelligence might score you a comfortable, predictable cubicle. But ruthless intelligence, that is the ability to read minds, anticipate moves, and dictate the flow of the room. Ruthless intelligence doesn't just get you a seat at the table, it gets you the head chair.
So that brings us to pillar number 1, master your internal state. Look, before you can ever hope to influence anyone else, you've got to completely master yourself. All right, let's dive into our first law, which is the sheer power of strategic silence. Whenever a conversation gets uncomfortable, what does the average person do? They panic. They scramble to fill the silence, they ramble, they make excuses, and in doing all of that, they completely reveal their weaknesses. The dangerously smart do the exact opposite. They weaponize silence. If someone gives you a bad answer or tries to lie to you, don't argue, don't interrupt them, just look them dead in the eye and say absolutely nothing. Just sit with that for a second. Notice how heavy that feels? Human psychology absolutely detests a vacuum. That intense discomfort forces your opponent to nervously over-explain, contradict themselves, and ultimately destroy their own argument through nervous chatter.
And that leads us right into the concept of emotional detachment. Let's say someone insults you or tries to provoke a reaction. You need to look at that provocation not as a personal attack, but just as raw data. Ask yourself, why are they trying to provoke me right now? What's the underlying insecurity here? Because the moment you let someone make you angry, you've essentially just handed them the remote control to your brain. Literally, they get to dictate your mood and your reactions. You've got to step back and analyze the insult, instead of just feeling it.
So to actually pull this off, you want to aim for the 80-20 rule of emotional detachment. That's 80% analytical indifference and 20% precise action. Think about it. In any room, the person who cares the least holds the most power. Period. When you react with cold analytical indifference to an emotional attack, you completely disarm the aggressor. You become unpredictable, unflappable, and honestly incredibly dangerous to anyone who's trying to manipulate you.
Moving on to pillar number 2, the art of concealment. This is all about calculated deception, focusing on defense and the absolute necessity of keeping your true maneuvers hidden from the rest of the world. Here's the thing. Naive people constantly broadcast their intentions. They're posting their goals online, they overshare their big business ideas, and they just loudly announce their strategies to literally anyone who will listen. It's a massive mistake, because when people know what you're aiming for, they can predict your moves, and even worse, they can sabotage your plans. You need to move silently, kind of like a submarine in deep water. You shouldn't be seen or heard until the torpedo actually hits. Keep things ambiguous. Let everyone think you're intensely focused on one thing while you quietly master something else entirely.
And to back this up, we can look straight to historical authority. Sun Tzu famously wrote, "All warfare is based on deception. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When we are active, we must make them believe we are inactive." It's incredible how that applies today. This timeless wisdom perfectly validates the strategy of intentionally projecting the wrong image to your competitors.
What this really means is you've got to get perfectly comfortable with letting people underestimate you. Arrogant people, they love to look strong. It feeds their ego, but it also makes them incredibly easy targets. Truly smart people, they don't mind looking weak or clueless or totally harmless, because when you play dumb, people drop their guard. They speak way more freely around you, and they just stop viewing you as a threat. Let them laugh. Let them think they have the upper hand, because while they're busy being arrogant, you're quietly collecting data, studying their blind spots, and preparing a move they will literally never see coming.
All right, pillar number 3, navigating human nature. Here, we're tackling exactly how to handle fragile egos and see straight through everyday manipulation.
Navigating other people's egos requires a pretty ruthless step-by-step playbook, and this one is adapted from Greene. Think about it. If you show off your brilliance too aggressively in a new environment, you aren't going to inspire admiration. You're going to inspire fear and insecurity in your boss. And trust me, they will quietly find a way to replace you. Instead, you need to secure your position first. Make those above you feel comfortably superior. Attribute your best ideas to their brilliant guidance. Let them soak up the spotlight so you can safely build your influence in the shadows. The rule is simple. You only outshine the master when you are fully ready to replace them.
Moving on, we really need to address the stark difference between biological wiring and behavioral truth. Humans are, by nature, biologically wired to lie, to manipulate, and to paint themselves in the absolute best possible light. Talk is just incredibly cheap. People are going to promise you unwavering loyalty and massive success all day long. But you have to stop listening to what people say. Honestly, their words are just irrelevant noise designed to manage your perception of them.
Instead, you need to look exclusively at their behavioral truth. Ask yourself these specific questions. Do they actually show up when it's super inconvenient for them? Do they execute on their tasks when absolutely nobody is watching? Do their actions consistently match their respectful words? If someone's words say they respect you, but their actions scream disrespect, you have to believe the action, every single time. Training yourself to believe actions over words will literally save you years of heartbreak and betrayal.
And that brings us to our final pillar, ultimate outcome control. This is all about securing absolute leverage and mastering endgame execution in any negotiation you walk into.
Okay, let's dive into an incredibly powerful psychological concept known as the frame. The frame is basically the invisible perspective or the premise from which any situation is viewed. The golden rule here is that reality is entirely negotiable, and whoever sets the frame, well, they control the entire interaction.
To see how controlling the frame works in real life, just imagine a standard job interview. Let's say the interviewer asks, "So, why do you have this gap in your resume?" Right there, they're setting a defensive frame. They're framing you as deficient. Now, if you apologize and get defensive, you've just accepted their reality, and honestly, you lose. But look at the controlled frame. You reject their premise entirely. You flip the script and say, actually, that gap was a deliberate, calculated period where I invested in high-level skill acquisition just to ensure my next company got maximum value. Boom! See what happened? You never accept someone else's negative premise. You impose your own reality. And all of this strategy culminates in your ultimate, absolute source of leverage, walk-away power. This means entering a room knowing exactly what your boundaries are and being fully prepared to leave the moment you are disrespected. You cannot successfully negotiate a raise, a big business deal, or even a relationship if you are terrified of losing it. The precise moment the other side realizes you desperately need them, that's the moment they own you.
Which brings us to the ultimate power phrase, "I don't need this." When people know, like deep down, that you are genuinely willing to pack your bags and walk out that door without even looking back, they are forced to respect you. There is literally nothing that commands a higher level of respect than projecting the absolute certainty that your life will be perfectly fine without whatever it is they're offering.
At the end of the day, becoming dangerously smart isn't about malicious manipulation. It's about understanding the unvarnished rules of human nature, so you never end up as a pawn in someone else's game. You've got the blueprint now, so the only question left is, are you going to step into the arena and master the game, or will you just go back to sleep and let the game master you? If you're ready to stop being reactive, make sure to drop the word strategist in the comments to prove you made it to the end of this explainer.